Dwarves, who are they? Myth or reality? Imagine that someone lives in your house, forest or even underground, small, silent, invisible, but capable of helping or taking revenge. Dwarves, the invention of storytellers or creatures that really exist among us. In this video, we will delve into the deepest layers of European folklore, uncover medieval manuscripts where dwarves are mentioned, and show the testimonies of modern people who are convinced that they saw them with their own eyes. We will analyze who they are: spirits of nature, guardians of treasures, or the remains of a long-forgotten race hiding underground. And most importantly, at the end we will discover one shocking truth that will change your attitude towards these creatures forever. So do not switch. Magical facts, secrets, and real discoveries are ahead. And in order not to miss new videos about the hidden history of our world, subscribe to the channel right now and click on the bell. The truth about the dwarves is closer than it seems. In the dark corners of European memory, in the legends whispered by the fireplace, the figure of a small, wrinkled creature has always lurked. It was called differently: dwerg, tomt, norm, gnome. But the essence remained unchanged. It is not just a storyteller's invention, but an image that arose from the deepest fears and hopes of humanity. A gnome is a guardian of the invisible world, a living metaphor for the connection between man, the earth, and the incomprehensible. The first mentions of gnomes appear in Gothic manuscripts and saga fragments of Scandinavia. In the Younger Edda, gnomes are not just underground inhabitants, but creators of worlds. It was they who forged the legendary weapons of the gods: Thor's hammer, Odin's spear, the ring that multiplied gold. They possessed celestial knowledge of the nature of metals, of the power of words and spells, and with this power came isolation. Gnomes never lived among people. Their world was somewhere between rocks, where magma flowed, where silence lived and turned into mystery. Interestingly, in the Germanic tradition, the word nomus comes from the Greek gnosis, knowledge. Not just knowledge, but a deep understanding of the hidden. Thus, a gnome is the embodiment of the very process of knowing the invisible, the alchemical, and the mystical. In alchemical treatises of the Renaissance, gnomes were considered spirits of the earth, responsible for minerals, crystals, ores. They could not be seen with the ordinary eye, but according to legend, those who purified their soul and mind could meet a gnome in a cave, during a storm, or in a dream. But what distinguishes gnomes from other mythological creatures? Their image is surprisingly consistent across cultures. Regardless of geography, in the Alps, in the Carpathians, in the Scottish hills, they appear similar: short, grey-haired, with long beards, often dressed in hoods or leather vests. Masters of their craft, guardians of treasures who dislike guests. In each nation they were perceived differently, somewhere as allies, somewhere as vengeful spirits, but always with respect and always with fear. Dwarves are not just a myth, they are a mirror of human fear of the depths and darkness, and at the same time, a reverence for the earth that nourishes and gives wealth. Their underground cities are a metaphor for the world that hides underfoot and about which man never knows for sure. That is why the image of the gnome is alive even in the 21st century. It has become a part of pop culture, literature, and fantasy, but its essence has not changed. It is the guardian of a secret that humanity is not yet ready to fully understand. However, sometimes, in the strangest places, old mines, caves, or basements of old houses, people still say, something was there. Small. It moved. It watched. And who knows, maybe it is not just an echo of fantasy, but a real trace of those who have always been there, but remained invisible. Imagine the depths where there is never any sun, where every sound is multiplied by an echo, where the walls breathe with moisture and age-old silence. It is there, according to many legends, that the cities of the dwarves are located, hidden underground empires untouched by time. But what do we really know about these mysterious settlements? And is there more truth in them than fairy tales? Ancient legends of the Alps, the Carpathians, the Urals, the Tatras, and even the Andes indicate that some caves are not of natural but of man-made origin. Their walls are smooth, the passages are amazingly regular, as if someone had carved them according to a drawing. In folklore, these places are considered entrances to underground settlements built by the Dwarves, a people who mastered the knowledge of the earth and time better than any architect on the surface. According to legend, these cities have temples, halls with crystal ceilings, forges where sparks never go out, and libraries with books written in an unknown language. Dwarves are not only masters of metalworking, but also keepers of ancient wisdom, which, as they say, they protect from human greed. One ancient Swiss myth mentions dwarf chroniclers who recorded the history of mankind in the form of symbols on stone tablets and hid them in underground galleries. This knowledge, if discovered, could change the world. Of course, modern science is skeptical of such stories. But what is interesting is that in the 20th century, mysterious tunnels were discovered in many countries that do not fit into any of the known geological models. In Germany, Austria, Hungary, archaeologists came across long, narrow passages with no obvious function. They could not be dug up by modern people, but there is no evidence that they were the work of ancient civilizations. Then who? And for what? Perhaps these passages are the remains of the very underground routes that led to the cities of the Dwarves. The Scandinavian sagas mention how warriors, having fallen into caves, disappeared forever because they fell into halls of stone where time does not flow. Time, space, silence are the main elements of the underworld where the Dwarves live. For them, the surface is danger, unpredictability, and the depth is a source of strength. Another interesting coincidence is that the structures of the Dwarves never completely collapse. They are not found in the form of debris like human cities. They either disappear without a trace or leave only hints, holes in the rocks, images of bearded figures on stones, incomprehensible energy sensations in certain places. Those who have sought them have described a strange shift in gravity, a sense of sight, a silence that seems to consume the mind. Some researchers of parallel realities believe that the cities of the Dwarves exist in a subtle reality parallel to ours. They open only when space allows. Sometimes, in the times between seasons, sometimes at mystical, astronomical points. And in these brief moments you can see the entrance illuminated from within, and on the threshold, a dwarf silently watching whether you are worthy of the knowledge that protects his people. Dwarves are not only the inhabitants of dungeons, they are the embodiment of the very idea of a hidden world to which not everyone has access. And their cities are not the architecture of stone, but the architecture of a forgotten power that humanity once possessed, and perhaps will find again. When we imagine dwarves, we see bearded creatures with hammers, forging gold in underground forges. But this picture is only the surface layer of a much deeper truth. Dwarves in legends are not just craftsmen, but masters of the magic of the earth, able to change reality, working with metals, crystals, shapes and sounds. Their craft is not work, but a ritual, in which every blow on the anvil is a formula, and everything is a living spell. Ancient Celtic sources tell us that dwarves made swords that do not dull, and rings that allow you to see through lies. The Germanic sagas mention the sword turfing, forged by dwarves, which had its own will and could not be stopped. Such artifacts did not just serve the owner, they conquered his soul, demanding strength, dignity, and sacrifice. Dwarven magic is not a gift, but a test. Crystals occupy a special place in the craft of the dwarves. They allegedly used quartz, amber, obsidian, and other minerals to create resonant objects. Some modern researchers suggest that the dwarves could know the secret frequencies of the earth, and with their help they turned on objects, just like we turn on microcircuits today. Legends mention a singing stone that makes a sound when touched. or a sleeping hammer that comes to life only in the hands of someone who has undergone initiation. In European folklore, there are numerous references to how the dwarves could create things that change fate. Helmets that make you invisible, boots that transport you between worlds, or mirrors that show not your reflection but the true essence of things. However, the dwarves always demanded payment. Not only gold, but also memory, blood, a vow, or even a part of the soul. Another source of the dwarves' power is the word. Their language, according to legend, is not sounds but codes. It is not spoken aloud but carved in stone, uttered mentally, or read through the shape of an object. In some Celtic texts, there is a mention of a language that cannot be heard but which opens doors. Is this not a hint of information magic which we are only beginning to realize? The dwarves never showed their knowledge unnecessarily. They taught only the chosen ones, those who showed patience, honor, and the ability to listen to silence. The old Norse sagas describe how a dwarf can appear in a dream, show an image of a mechanism or runes that will help a person in life. This is a real mystical contract, where knowledge is transmitted through the unconscious. What is this magic? It is magic that combines matter and spirit, sound and form, the memory of the earth and the touch of the mind. Dwarves do not cast spells like magicians. They intertwine knowledge with creation, and their creations are embodied wisdom that can live for millennia. They do not turn the world upside down, but rewrite its codes within the limits of what is permissible. Therefore, even today, when someone sees a shining stone in the mountains that seems to breathe, or hears a knock in the depths of a cave, perhaps it is the dwarves who remind them their craft lives on, and those who remember its power can still touch ancient magic. The real secret of the dwarves is hidden not in legends but underfoot. In all traditions of the world, from Scandinavia to the Caucasus, from Ireland to the Himalayas, there are legends about underground worlds in which small peoples live. But a special place among them is occupied by the dwarves, the lords of caves, mines, tunnels, and entire cities deep in the earth. Their world is not darkness, but a different light, not fear, but a different logic of reality. Everything in it is invisible to the human eye, but tangible to the one who truly listens to the earth. According to legends, the dwarves live in multi-level structures that stretch for hundreds of kilometers under mountains, forests, and even oceans. These are not just caves. This is architecture that cannot be repeated. The walls there shine with minerals, the ceilings are covered with magical signs, and the air pulsates with unknown energies. There are legends about living halls where stones sound like a choir when they speak the truth, and about gates of time through which dwarves can disappear and return in an instant. Icelandic sagas tell of how old miners sometimes fell into dwarven tunnels and returned as other people, some with grey hair, some with the gift of seeing the future. In the Carpathians, there is a legend that in the depths of mountain caves there are iron gates behind which ancient people sleep, guarding the key to the great depth, a source of pure power. And it is the dwarves who know how to open these doors. Some researchers suggest that the dwarves have preserved technologies lost by humanity, perhaps from the times of Atlantis or Hyperborea. There were rumors of machines powered by crystal energy, mechanisms that have no moving parts but sing and move loads with the power of sound. It was in the underground cities that artifacts could be stored that would change the course of history today. The most interesting thing is that in all myths, dwarf cities cannot be found just like that. They are opened only to those who came with pure intention, or to those who have already been there before, perhaps in a dream, perhaps in a past life. The dwarves protect their territory not with a sword, but with an illusion. You can walk past the entrance dozens of times and not notice it if you are not tuned in. But even when a person gets into their world, he has no right to say anything unnecessary. Ancient legends state that everything heard in the dwarves' caves must remain silent, because this is not just knowledge. It is part of the energy contract between man and the earth. Whoever violates it risks losing not only the gift, but also himself. The caves of the dwarves are portals to a different understanding of reality. Here time flows differently. Our rules do not work here. It is impossible to lie here. The stones resonate with the truth. And everyone who finds themselves there is tested, whether they are ready to see not the external but the internal, whether they can withstand the silence that speaks louder than thunder. And therefore, when you see an old mine in the mountains, when you feel a breath of coolness from a crack in the rock, do not rush to go further. Perhaps somewhere nearby is the entrance, and if your heart responds, the dwarves will show themselves. But not to entertain, but to remind. The earth remembers everything, and those who listen to her will again find their way to the depths. The world of gnomes is not only rocks and caves, it is an alchemical laboratory of the earth itself, where the elements weave knowledge that even the great sages of humanity do not know. Dwarves have long been considered masters of working with metals, crystals, and the secret energy of the depths. In legends, they are compared not with simple creatures, but with alchemists who speak directly with matter. They are not interested in gold for the sake of wealth. They are interested in the structure of energy that is hidden in everything. There are legends that the dwarves were the first to teach people to smelt iron from a celestial stone, a meteorite. They could sing over a piece of ore, and it turned into liquid metal. The Scandinavian sagas describe how the dwarves forged weapons that could pierce the armor of the gods. In Celtic legends, how they created mirrors that showed the future. And all this is not magic in the entertainment sense. This is a deep alchemy of the structure of the world, which we simply do not see. Crystals are the heart of dwarven power. In each crystal they see a living consciousness. For them, it is not a decoration, but an instrument of resonance, tuning to the wave of nature, to its rhythms and secrets. Legends tell about the crystal observatories of dwarves, from which they could predict earthquakes, magnetic storms, and even emotional explosions in human cities. Because for dwarves, stones are the memory of the earth, and crystals are its eyes. But the most mysterious thing is the connection of dwarves with people. In ancient legends of different peoples, they do not just appear as characters, they often become teachers, guides, and even saviors. There are Swiss legends about shepherds whom dwarves led out of avalanches. There are Tibetan legends about dwarfs who taught monks to meditate on stones. There is a Carpathian belief that the old Mulfars received their gift at night in caves where they heard the crystal. The gnomes did not disappear. They simply became invisible to the human eye, which no longer sees the world of magic because it has lost the ability to see with its heart. But every legend is a key. When we remember the gnomes, when we believe that they exist not only in fairy tales but in the deep collective memory of humanity, we open the door, not to the outside world, but to ourselves. Because the gnomes are not only an underground people, they are the embodiment of the earth itself, its wisdom, its patience, and its strength. And therefore, when you touch a stone lying on the road or look at an old mountain rock, know, perhaps somewhere nearby they are. And if your soul really wants to know, not out of curiosity but out of respect, the gnomes will give the answer, not with words but with a silence that changes forever. We walked through the shadows of ancient caves, touched the silence of underground cities, and breathed in the dust of legends that have been whispered for centuries. Dwarves are not just folklore creatures. They are archetypes etched in the subconscious of humanity, a mirror of our forgotten connection with nature, with the earth, with ourselves. They did not seek fame, they did not build empires, but they preserved what is truly important: memory, structure, stability, and the wisdom of the elements. Perhaps this is why modern man feels such a deep interest in the myths of dwarves. We live in a world where roots have been lost, but dwarves are the root. They have always been where life grows from darkness, where the most valuable is invisible. Every mountain, every crack, every crystal is their library. We have simply forgotten how to read these books. And now, when you have read to the end, ask yourself the question, is this really just a myth? Or maybe the world of gnomes exists nearby, just beyond our perception. And what if you have already met them once? In a dream, in the forest, in the shine of a stone that for some reason you could not put down. Subscribe to the channel if these deep topics are close to you, if you still have a sense of mystery, if you want to know more than textbooks allow. Leave a like if you felt goosebumps on your skin while reading these lines. And be sure to write in the comments, do you believe that gnomes exist? Or maybe, have you seen them with your own eyes? This is not just a video. It is a portal to a world that is waiting for us to remember. Thank you for being with me until the end. And remember, real magic is always closer than it seems.